Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Teachers. We educate, you dominate. We're going to be talking all about our starts of the week because guess what? It is playoff time. That's right. Fantasy playoffs, all kinds of fun to be had. I know it can be a little bit stressful too, but don't worry. We're here to help you out. We're going to give you our starts of the week, guys that are outside of the top ranked players. These aren't the smash plays, but these are guys that can help you get by to that next round. We're going to identify the guys that we think are ranked a little bit too low, should be a little bit higher, that you can plug into your lineup and help get you by. Ben Fisher and Kyle Olson joining me as always. Ben, how are you doing, man?
Doing well, my friend. We got fantasy playoffs. We got NBA coming up here.
That's
It's a
right.
good time of the year.
That's
College basketball started, rolling in college football, so it's a beautiful time.
that's right. That's right. Let's do it. Olson, you getting all settled into that new house there?
Yeah, man, going good. Everything's going well. I'm just thinking about the Bills game tomorrow night. Buffalo Bills fan here.
Ooh.
Finally having last year they were pretty good, but finally having a really good year and a big game against the Steelers tomorrow night. So I'm excited about that. And in the fantasy football, I'm just excited about the first round of playoffs, like I know you guys are.
You got to be a little bit disappointed that Washington upset the Steelers last week, because now your team is going to get a pissed off Steelers team
Yeah.
this week. They're going to be fired up and everything, and now the Bills have to deal with that. They Washington didn't do you guys any favors.
No, they did not. As soon as that happened, and I saw that the Steelers, and I saw the end of that game, and the Steelers lost. I was thinking the exact same thing. I was like, gosh dang it! Now the Bills are gonna, like you said, the Steelers are gonna come in fired up. They're gonna be refocused. It's gonna be tough, but you know what? If the Bills want to be a team that can get back to the Super Bowl for the first time in forever, they're gonna have to beat those type of teams. So it's a good challenge for them. So I'm excited.
I don't know what this forever is you're talking about, Olson, but yeah, go to hell. As a Lions fan, I actually know
I
what
got you.
forever is. So
All right, let's get in. Let's get into our starts of the week at the quarterback position. Olson, let's go to you first. Who is your start that is outside of the top 12 ranked quarterbacks for the week? Who are you turning to?
All right, so this one's definitely a little bit of a flyer. This one's more of a gut feeling. A lot of the stuff kind of points against him, but it's kind of similar to why I was high on Cam Akers a couple weeks ago. And I'll admit Akers did better than I thought he was going to do, but Jalen Hurts came in when they benched Wentz. When the Eagles benched Wentz, he did look good for a drive. He showed that he can play. And as you know, Ben was pointing this out earlier when we were talking. He's had a week now with the starting offense, so he's had a chance to get his feet wet with them, get reps with the starters. I just feel like this is opportunity, and I feel like it's going to go one of two ways. I feel like he is going to either play really well, and you're going to be happy you started him if you need to. If you have a team with where you're a little bit thin at quarterback right now, where you've got some tough matchups, things like that. I just think his ceiling could be really good. Now, I will admit that he could have a really bad game. The Saints are tough, but I think if you're in a situation where you can roll the dice, I think I have a league where I have Matt Ryan, and I've just been so disappointed with Matt Ryan this year. And maybe it's just because he's on my team, and so I've had those just so many tough games with him. But with Julio out, I just don't trust Matt Ryan. He just has not been good, and I just think Hurts has more upside. And so I'm rolling the dice this week. I'm going with Hurts. They're both projected about the same amount of points, but I'm hoping I'm right. I might look like an idiot, but you know what? I'm willing to take a chance. So I'm just high on Hurts this week, even though he has a tough matchup. I just think he's going to come out and prove himself.
Well, as current or former teachers, I guess we're all willing to occasionally look like idiots because that just comes with the territory. That's part of the profession. But rolling with Jalen Hurts, taking the chance, rolling the dice a little bit there. I like it, but fantasy playoffs, I know some are going to shy away from that. Fisher, you have somebody that you think is maybe even a better option, maybe locked in a little bit more than a Jalen Hurts would be.
yeah, I don't like the Hurts call, KO.
All
I mean,
good.
you're rolling with a quarterback that has a 17-point team total against the best defense in the league, or one of the best defenses in the league. So um, down that low, if you're just shooting craps with the quarterbacks, like I'd rather roll with Mike Glennon against Tennessee. But that being said, um, you talked about Buffalo earlier, my second favorite quarterback, Josh Allen. But going back to my roots, little bias here,
Uh-oh.
but Matt Stafford, um, he threw over 400 yards last week. His team totals 24. He's going against Green Bay, who's going to put up points, right? They have one of the highest team totals on the slate. They're projected for 31 points, which means Detroit's going to have to throw. That interceptions, as much as they suck as a fan, they don't really matter that much in fantasy football. They actually kind of lean towards helping the quarterback. As weird as that sounds, right? You throw an interception, the other team scores. That just means the quarterback has to get back out there and chuck the ball around. So there's not many better quarterbacks that can just get out there and just chuck the ball around. Obviously, no Galladay, but he's been without Galladay for a while. Marvin Jones had a good game. Cephas had a couple big plays last week, and then hopefully getting DeAndre Swift back too, which could open up the offense just a little bit more.
And sometimes we see this with teams when they lose their head coach, when there's turnover there, they play with a little bit more freedom. I mean, we certainly saw it in Houston with the Texans. So this can be something that can sort of reinvigorate Stafford. I mean, he's a guy that a lot of people were high on coming into the season, and so now with Matt Patricia gone, the window might be open here for Stafford to convert back into the guy that we thought we were getting at the beginning of the year. So even though Green Bay's pass defense is pretty good, I like that pick. I'm going with a guy that's just been absolutely on fire lately. This guy has been look, I'm going with Kirk Cousins. The Vikings started on the season off terribly. It was awful. Awful start to the season. But now they feel like they finally have got it going. And you look at the weapons, you look at what he's got. Justin Jefferson has established himself as one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, despite being a rookie. And then you've got Adam Thielen on top of that. He's got two guys who are extremely good at shaking loose. He's got 3 touchdowns thrown in 3 of his last 4 games. This guy is putting up numbers right now. And the Buccaneer defense, for as much credit as they get, yes, they are great stopping the run. They have not been great dealing with the pass. And so I think Kirk Cousins is a smash play this week. What do you guys think on that one?
Yeah. Cousins was actually in my list of players we were getting ready for. I think Jefferson and Thielen are great plays this week. Tampa's got an amazing run defense. Although Dalvin Cook can obviously break big ones anytime, he's an amazing player, but you got to lean on the pass game. Tampa Bay has a great, secondary, but there's going to be points scored. It's one of the highest totals on the slate. Kirk Cousins, Michigan State blood, definitely like him. I think Eric Kendricks in the linebacking crew for Minnesota hurts them. So Tampa Bay is going to be chucking the ball around, which is more of a faster game. Cousins absolutely in play.
All right, so let's move on to the running backs. If we could all go back in time, I'm sure we would all pick Cam Akers after what he just did on Thursday night. But Olsen, who do you have at the running back for your start of the week?
Well, kind of the same reason I liked Akers before, and obviously didn't like him enough though, because like I was telling you guys, I have him in 2 leagues. I started him in 1, but in the PPR league I have him, and I just couldn't pull the trigger, and so I'm kicking myself for that one, especially because I was going to start Gaskin. He's out now, but. Kind of the same reason I like Akers. J.K. Dobbins is who I'm going with this week. He's been playing very well lately. He's had double-digit points the last couple games. 15 carries for 70 yards, 11 carries for 71 yards. He's been in the end zone. 2 of the game against Titans, the game against Cowboys. So I just think the same thing that's happening with Akers. I think they're just rolling with that young talent. I think this is the time of year where if you're a young running back and you start playing well, coaches are gonna stick with you. So I just feel like it's gonna be another good game for him. I think that young talent wins out a lot of time in the NFL. Ingram is just getting older. I just feel like this is gonna be, he's had a couple pretty good games. I feel like this could be a big breakout game. Cleveland is 8th against the run, so Cleveland is a tough opponent. One thing I would like to see with Dobbins is him to get a little bit more involved in the receiving game and the passing game. He has not had more than 2 catches since week 5. But again, he hasn't had a lot of opportunities in some of those, in a couple of those games. So I'd like to see him get more involved, though. A couple of games I'm looking at, he had 15 carries, 1 reception, 12 carries, 2 receptions. So if he can get a little bit more involved in the passing game, now he's an even bigger play. But he's definitely a guy you can be starting to flex. If he's going to get you, 12 to 15 points at your flex, that's pretty good. You'll take that in the playoffs. And then I think the ceiling, if he busts a big run or gets a big play on the passing game, all of a sudden now he's in the 20s, and now he's putting up numbers like Akers did the other night which can be a difference maker for you.
Yeah, I mean that could be potentially a league winner if you can get a guy like Akers or potentially
Right.
like Dobbins who is now getting the keys to the car and they get to just go
Right.
and run with it. And sometimes we see this happen with rookie running backs later on in the season. It's like they kind of, they get their feet wet, they dip their toe in the water a little bit, and then they go a little deeper, a little deeper. The next thing you know, they just get thrown into the deep end late in the season. I think that's what we're seeing happen with Cam Akers. I think that's what we might see happen with J.K. Dobbins, and that can relate to absolute fantasy gold. Fisher, who is your guy?
Yeah, so after I just gave KO some crap about quarterback with a 17.5 team total, I'm going with the lower team total with the New York Jets, 16.5 team total, and Ty Johnson. Obviously, a lot depends on Frank Gore, if he plays or not. But if he's out, I think you absolutely need to roll Ty Johnson. He came in, he looked actually pretty good last week, 22 carries. But if Frank Gore is in, putting Ty Johnson in is going to be very risky. I don't think you can do that. If DeAndre Washington out of Miami is still available on your waiver wire with Gaskin just being ruled out with the COVID, definitely pick him up and sub him in for Ty Johnson if you were planning on playing Ty Johnson.
I look at that situation with Frank Gore, and you got to remember he is inevitable, right? Frank Gore is immortal, apparently. But
80 years old.
But yes, he's also, he's what, 85 something? He's got to be something like that. So, hey, Ty Johnson, if he can get the carries again, you'll take that. I am going J.D. McKissic, and it pains me. As someone who has Antonio Gibson on their roster, it pains me to do this. I don't want to. I want to just roll Antonio Gibson out there, but he is ruled out already. He's got that foot injury. Not good. So I'm going J.D. McKissic. Yes, it's a bad matchup against the 49ers, but you know what happens when you're down in a football game, and that's what I think Washington is going to be in this one. Well, you have to throw the ball, and you have to throw it a lot. J.D. McKissic is not going to get you anything rushing, but he can get targets. I think that he is going to. Last week, we saw him get 10 targets. If you're getting 10 targets at the running back position, you are putting up fantasy points. Even if he falls to, say, 6 or 7 targets, that can be enough for him to make a difference for your fantasy squad. So I'm going to go J.D. McKissic with Antonio Gibson out. I think they're going to have to turn to him a little bit more. All right, wide receivers. Olsen, who are you throwing the ball to?
All right, so I'm going with Deebo Samuel for my guy this week. The guy's just too talented. He's too talented not to to outperform his ranking right now, I think. And so, he obviously had a huge game at the Rams. He had 11 catches for 133, but even against the Bills, he had 6 for 73. And, during that game, they made the point, they even said that they pretty much said what I just said, and that's kind of where I took it from, I'll be honest. But they said he's too good. How does he only have like 1 catch? His first catch didn't come till, I think it was the third quarter of that game or late in the second. And they said, how is he just now getting his first catch? You got to get that guy the ball. So I just feel like I explained well there too. But those two guys are their big weapons. You've got to get a guy like Deebo Samuel the ball. Like you said, he's too good. And his last 4 games that he's played in, outside of his injury, 6 catches, 5 catches, 11 catches, 6 catches. So he gets the targets, he gets the action. Sometimes it takes him a little bit to get him involved, but I just feel like, the talent level, and he's a guy that could definitely crack that top 15, get up around the top 10. If he finds the end zone, you're talking about a really good game because you expect him to get 6 to 7 catches at least somewhere in that area. So I think Deebo's a good play this week, even though it hurts me to say that because my brother's a big Niners fan, and so we got to root against each other's teams. But I think Deebo's going to have a big game.
I love it. I think too many people have kind of knocked him down or forgotten about him because he started off the season with that injury. And so now he's back, and you got to remember what he did last season. Deebo Samuel is a man, right? He is a grown man. You get him on those jet sweeps and he picks up yardage, and that is a great way to rack up fantasy points. Fisher, who are you turning to?
So I'm going to touch base on Deebo real quick. Yeah. I think against Washington, arguably one of the top, front fours in the league this year, and probably for years to come with the rookies with Chase Young and everybody. But Deebo's average depth of target since week 9 is 2 yards, right? Which is ridiculous, right? Like that, like you're not playing that player. However, against Washington, I think that benefits. somebody like San Francisco, right? They run these short routes,
Mhm.
very quick routes anyways, and then Washington's going to put a lot of pressure on the quarterback, which is going to force that ball to come out very quickly. Kyle Shanahan's one of the smartest coaches, at least on offense, that we have in the league. He understands this, and he's gonna feed Deebo, I think, this week. So great call there, KO. I'm gonna roll with Brandon Cooks. Obviously, without Will Fuller, everybody was high on Cooks and Kute or QT, however you say his
QT.
last name. I think
Kiki.
that's still. I think it's still. I think it's still up for. I think it's still up for debate. I hear it, both ways. So Kiki, I apologize. But before he got knocked out cold last week, Cooks had 8 targets, and he did not fill in for the Will Fuller role. That really flew to Kiki, but Cooks has been having a great year to begin with, and I think everybody just assumed he was going to fill in Will Fuller's role, and that didn't necessarily happen. But his target percentage increased, and if that continues against Chicago, tough defense, it could be a lower scoring game. But Houston's going to put pressure. We're not worried about Duke Johnson as much as we love Duke Johnson in fantasy. We're not worried about him. Houston's going to get the ball up. Houston's going to chuck the ball around. Kiki has a good matchup, but I'm going to roll with Brandon Cooks coming back from the concussion. He should have a big game.
I like it. I like it. Deshaun Watson is a tremendous quarterback, and Cooks is one of those guys where one play. He needs one play, and he can make your fantasy day because he can blow up on just one play. He can have a 70-yard touchdown and make your day right there. I am going to go. I guess it's kind of a homer pick here, but I feel like sometimes we talked about this on the last show. Our advice for heading into the fantasy playoffs in terms of how to navigate it. Ben, one of your points was to start your studs. I look at Amari Cooper and I think, gosh, this guy's one of the better wide receivers in the NFL. Why he's ranked outside the top, well, I think he's outside the top 20 this week. It doesn't make sense to me because we know Andy Dalton is back. Is Andy Dalton Dak Prescott? No, not even close. But he's decent. And what he's going to do is he's going to target Amari Cooper quite a bit. In fact, Cooper is averaging 8 targets per game over his last 3, all 3 with Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton has locked into him. No, he's not firing a super accurate ball all the time, but I feel like on 8 targets or so, that's enough for Amari Cooper to put up some real fantasy numbers. And if he finds the end zone, well, then you're in really, really good shape with him. All right.
You talked about narrative street with Stafford earlier in the week. No bigger narrative this week than Andy Dalton returning to Cincinnati.
That's right. Revenge game, right? All right, let's move on. Let's head over to finish things up with the tight end position. Olsen, you kick us off there.
All right. So this is mainly just because Julio Jones is out. He hasn't had the best games last couple, 8.8 a couple games against the Raiders, but I'm going to go with Hayden Hurst. He had a stretch before the last few games where he had double-digit points for 4 straight games. I think with Julio out, I think that, and the Chargers have a pretty good pass defense, but I think Matt Ryan's going to kind of look for that security blanket that the tight end is for the quarterback a lot. And so with Julio out, I think that just means a few more targets for Hurst. And in the position, again, tight end, obviously we've talked about it on a couple of shows, but it's a tight end where once you get past those first few guys, you're really just throwing darts. Because there's just not much there, right? So I just look for those chances where there's a guy who maybe his target share is just gonna come up a little bit that week. And with Julio out, Matt Ryan struggling, a lot of times that tight end can be that help for you. So, we'll see. I look for him to get 4 or 5 catches, possibly if he can find the end zone. Now you just had one of the better tight end games for the week because, tight end 5 or 6 is probably scoring 12 or 13 points. I'd have to look, but it's not good. So, and I like your Cooper pick too, man. I was thinking, a lot of times they say he struggles on the road, but I was looking at his stats just now. He's actually played really well on the road this year, and he's had a lot of a lot of big games. So I like the Cooper pick a lot, and both your guys' wide receiver picks that are going to play well. So, but yeah, we'll go with Hurst, man. We'll roll the dice. We'll hope that Julio being out benefits somebody, might benefit him.
Never know with Hayden Hurst. All right, Fisher, who do you have?
So I would like to take you on a little stroll to last week when Baker Mayfield had the game of his life. Now,
tremendous.
First round, first pick, NFL draft. Sweet. He should have those, right? Yeah, it's Baker frickin' Mayfield. However, he played the Tennessee Titans. So who plays him this week? Jacksonville Jaguars. Tyler Eifert has 4 targets in all 4 of his last games, as well as most of his 6 games, I believe. So in the 6 straight games that he has played, it's disgusting. I don't want to play Tyler Eifert, but as KO kind of alluded to, if you don't have Kelsey, if you don't have Waller, I guess you're going to play Hawkinson and a few other tight ends. You're probably going to play Gronk this week, right? You're going to play Hunter Henry. But outside of that, you're really just hoping for a touchdown. I'm going to attack Tennessee. Tennessee sucks. Their secondary's horrible. Let's roll. Jacksonville Jaguars.
Sometimes that's the best thing to do, right? Don't focus too much on the talent of the individual player or what you think of that player. Focus on who they're playing against.
Who sucks and attack them. Listen, you want to talk about vomit stacks? Is this person in DFS Jordan Cooper talks about? And Mike Glennon to Tyler Eifert. Let's roll.
Let's do it. Go after the weakest target. I like it. That's my strategy whenever we play dodgeball.
Pick
by the
them
way,
when they're down.
Is you pick on the weakest one first, and so I like the way you're going there with that one, Fisher. My pick again. I didn't do this intentionally, but I have 2 Cowboys here. I have Amari Cooper, and now I'm going to Dalton Schultz. I feel like the tight end position, it's just so depressing. It's just such a downer because there's so many guys that realistically it comes down to, did they catch a touchdown? And if the answer is yes, they were great. If the answer is no, then they were terrible. And that's it. They're touchdown or bust. Dalton Schultz, I feel like at least gives you some kind of a floor. He's probably going to get, say, 4 or 5 targets, maybe 6 on a good week, but he's going to get a few targets. He's not going to give you 0. You're not going to get the goose egg from Dalton Schultz. And so that's something that at least you can feel good about. Hey, if I have to plug this guy in, I don't have Travis Kelce. Unfortunately, I can't put him in. I got to turn to the waiver wire. I got to turn to this guy that's deep on my bench. I go to Dalton Schultz. I know worst case, I'm going to get 7 or 8 points out of him. That's something. Best case, maybe I happen to get the week where he catches a touchdown and he gives me, say, 14 points, and then I'm happy. Then it's all golden from there. That's just perfect, right? So maybe this is the week that it happens. I know. Again, both Dalton Schultz and Amari Cooper, but it's the way it goes with this sometimes. What do you guys think? Is this just me trying to project a little positivity onto my Cowboys, or is this a legit pick?
No, I like it. I like the pick. And you were talking about targets. Of his last 15 targets, he's got 13 catches. So he's catching almost all of his targets. So, there's not that many balls being thrown to Schultz. They're not being caught. So that's not a good thing. You talk about targets, but then you talk about catches. He's had at least 4 catches in his last 5 games. So, you're right. He only has 1 touchdown in those games. He only has 3 touchdowns on the year. But if he does find the end zone, now you've got a good play in your hands. And if he doesn't, if he goes 4 for 40, 8 points, okay, you'll take that. That's okay. That's not going to kill you at the tight end position. But, like you said, if he finds the end zone and gets you 14 to 16 points, now you've got yourself a pretty good tight end play. Because like Ben said, if you don't have those top few guys, the guys Ben mentioned, you're starting those guys. But, other than like Kelsey or Waller, I'm not real confident with it. I have Hunter Henry in the league. He doesn't impress. It's not like I'm like, oh, yes, I have Hunter Henry. No, except the league I have Waller in. Unfortunately, I don't have Kelsey in any leagues. Except the league I have Waller in with you guys, I am not confident with any tight end I throw out there. Yeah. You're like we said, you're throwing darts, but yeah, Schultz, man. You look at a guy who's getting 4 catches at least in the each last 5 games. He's getting targets. Throw him out there. Worst case, he's getting you that 7 or 8 point floor, which isn't horrible for a tight end.
No, I agree. Listen, Henry's like top DraftKings game this year is like 14.8. Whoop-de-doo. Like that ain't gonna kill you. It's not gonna win you any league, right? So if you're in this position with tight end, you could honestly just play blind. Just literally throw a dart, hope to land on one that scores a touchdown this week. Like it is what it is. We're all just thinking who's going to score a touchdown. We all have different ways to get it. Lane's a homer. I'm going against the worst. KO's trying to pick with no Julio. So we're just all looking at it different ways. If you if you don't have one of those top tight ends, good luck. Hope you find the end zone.
Yeah, and that's
3 for 3 for 10 with a touchdown. Perfect. Sign me up.
That's it. That's the position that just about everybody is in, except for if you have Waller or Kelsey or someone along those lines. And that's been the position all season long. It has been a rough year at the tight end spot, especially when we came into it thinking, hey, look, there's a lot of guys with upside. Hey, Mike Gesicki, maybe it's this year, or maybe Jonnu Smith is going to really get going. And we've just been disappointed more often than not.
And besides 2 weeks this year, Waller hasn't really been great. I mean, he had week 11, he had a 21-point game. In week 2, he had a 31-point game. And obviously, we all remember what he did last week. But, I mean, week 12, he put up 6 points. Week 10, he put up 6 points. So, I mean, even with Waller, like, you're falling in those positions a lot of the time anyways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so even if you do have, quote unquote, one of the top tight ends, like, you're still hoping for a touchdown. It's just such a trash position this year. And it's just horrible.
I mean,
let's just exit, get rid of them. Kickers and tight
Fisher's ideal fantasy league is quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers, and that's it, because he's already launched a campaign to get rid of kickers. I mean, now he wants to get rid of the tight ends. I'm sure defenses are not in your good graces either. So it's quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers, and that's it. Everybody else, get out.
So the league I run, I do have a tight end spot, but it's quarterback, running back, receivers, one tight end. Don't even get it. There's 2 crap, and then flex. Like, I'm not playing defenses or kickers. This is fantasy. It's supposed to be fun. Like, I don't want to watch kickers kick. Except for you, Prater. Love you, bud.
You would want to join if you ever have a spot open. I think Trevor's got the next one, but if our buddy Joey's league ever has a spot open, he does not have tight ends. He does have kickers and defenses, but
I'm out.
You don't have to have a tight end. So you know what? You get half.
My brother-in-law wanted to do an IDP league, and I was like, get
No.
out. I'm not touching it. I'm not researching defense.
No, that does not sound like fun to me. All right, guys.
It's horrible.
So fantasy playoffs kicking off. Hopefully our starts of the week will help some people out and they can plug in some players and make it on, survive to the next round. That is what it's all about. Get on to week 15 and then you can go from there. I know I had a league last year where I started, I think I barely squeaked into the playoffs, last place, and wound up lucking into winning the whole thing. I'll admit it was a very lucky run, but I happened to win the whole thing. So you never know. Sometimes it takes just plugging in some players. Even if you've suffered some injuries, you can get through and wind up standing on top of the mountain at the end. All right, guys, thank you everybody for watching. If you guys have any comments, any thoughts, make sure you fire them off down below. Don't forget to subscribe right here to the Fantasy Football Teachers YouTube channel. Till next time, everybody, stay safe and see ya.
See you guys.
Smash that like button.